The galaxy had known peace for nearly 300 years. The great powers maintained their borders. Trade flowed freely between star systems. And humanity, the youngest species to achieve faster-than-light travel, had earned a reputation for being quiet farmers and traders. They built colonies on distant worlds. They grew crops that fed billions across multiple civilizations. They asked for nothing except to be left alone. New Eden was the pride of human agricultural achievement. The planet sat in the system, far from the busy trade routes and political conflicts of the inner galaxy. 12 million humans called it home. They had transformed a barren rock into a paradise of green fields and crystal-clear rivers. Children played in meadows, while their parents tended to vast farms that stretched beyond the horizon. There were no military bases on New Eden. There were no weapons platforms in orbit. The colonists had chosen this world specifically because they wanted peace. The Empire watched humanity's expansion with growing concern. The species had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They viewed all other races as inferior. They saw humanity's rapid growth as a threat to their dominance. But instead of challenging humans directly, they chose a different path. They would teach these upstart mammals a lesson they would never forget. Admiral commanded the strike force. His fleet consisted of 40 warships, each one bristling with weapons capable of burning cities to ash. He led them through uncharted space to avoid detection. When they emerged from hyperspace above New Eden, the colonists had no warning. The agricultural world had no defense grid. It had no emergency evacuation system. The people simply looked up at the sky and saw death arriving. The bombardment lasted 6 hours, ordered his ships to be thorough. Plasma rained down from orbit like a storm of fire. The beautiful green fields turned black. The rivers boiled away to nothing. Cities that had taken decades to build vanished in seconds. 12 million voices screamed in terror and then fell silent forever. When it was over, New Eden was nothing but a charred husk floating in space. Recorded a message and broadcast it across human communication channels. His mandibles clicked with satisfaction as he spoke. He told humanity that this was punishment for their arrogance. He warned them that any attempt at retaliation would result in more destroyed worlds. He believed that humans would cower in fear. He believed they would accept their place as a lesser species. He was completely wrong. The news of New Eden reached Earth 3 days later. President Maria Santos sat in silence as she watched the footage. She saw the recordings that survivors on distant ships had captured. She watched homes burn. She watched children die. When the footage ended, she did not cry. Her face became like stone. She turned to her military advisors and spoke only 4 words: make them pay everything. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the attack. The ambassador expressed false concern while hiding his satisfaction. He expected humanity to beg for help. He expected them to seek diplomatic solutions. Instead, the human ambassador stood before the council and delivered a simple statement: humanity from all peace treaties. Humanity recalled all ambassadors. Humanity declared total war against the Empire. The council members exchanged nervous glances. They had never seen humans act this way. For 3 centuries, humanity had been the peaceful neighbor who never raised their voice. Now something had changed. The human ambassador's eyes held a darkness that made even the oldest council members uncomfortable. One delegate from the Federation asked if humanity wanted military assistance. The ambassador smiled coldly and declined. This was a human matter now. Deep in the Sol system, humanity revealed secrets they had kept hidden for generations. The peaceful farmers had not been idle during 3 centuries of quiet expansion. They had built shipyards in hollowed asteroids. They had developed weapons that no other species had imagined. They had trained soldiers in secret facilities on frozen moons. Humanity had always hoped they would never need to use these preparations. Now they were grateful for their paranoia. Admiral Wei commanded the first Vengeance fleet. She was 63 years old. Her grandmother had been among the original colonists on New Eden. When she received news of the attack, she made a private vow. They would learn why humans had once been the most feared predators on their home world. Her fleet consisted of 200 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything they had ever constructed. The first target was a military outpost called Station. It served as the forward operating base for Strike Force. 3,000 soldiers were stationed there. They expected no trouble. When human ships appeared on their sensors, the station commander laughed. He had heard that humans were coming with only 200 ships. He commanded a station with defense batteries capable of destroying twice that number. Admiral did not bother with formal challenges or declarations. She simply ordered her fleet to open fire. The commander's laughter died in his throat as the first human weapon struck his station. He had expected plasma weapons similar to what every civilization used. Instead, he witnessed something impossible. Human ships fired projectiles that traveled at nearly the speed of light. These kinetic weapons carried no explosive charge. They did not need one. Pure physics did the work. The impact energy was beyond anything the commander had ever calculated. Station ceased to exist in less than 90 seconds. The defensive batteries never had a chance to fire. The shields that were supposed to protect the station failed instantly under the concentrated assault. 3,000 died before they could even reach their combat posts. Admiral did not pause to celebrate. She ordered her fleet to continue forward. The High Command received reports of the attack and dismissed them as exaggerations. Surely the primitive humans could not have destroyed a major military installation so quickly. They sent Admiral with his original fleet to intercept forces, was confident. He had already defeated humanity once. He would do so again. The two fleets met in the empty space between star systems, commanded 40 ships, commanded 200, but numbers did not tell the full story. Human ships were faster. Human weapons had greater range. Human crews had something they did not understand. They had rage. They had grief. They had the memory of 12 million murdered civilians burning in their hearts. Admiral broadcast a message to before the battle began. She told him who she was. She told him about her grandmother. She told him that she had visited New Eden as a child and played in the same meadows his weapons had destroyed. She wanted him to know exactly why he was about to die. Responded with mockery. He called her a sentimental creature ruled by emotion. He declared that emotion had no place in warfare. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Human ships moved through the formation like wolves among sheep. Their weapons tore through armor as if it did not exist. Watched his fleet die around him. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes of light. He ordered retreat. His surviving vessels tried to flee into hyperspace, had anticipated this. She had positioned her ships to cut off every escape route. When only his flagship remained, ordered her ships to cease fire. She wanted him alive. Marines in powered armor boarded his vessel and fought through corridors filled with desperate soldiers. They reached the bridge and dragged from his command chair. He demanded to be treated as a prisoner of war. The Marine sergeant removed her helmet and showed him her face. Her expression made realize that the old rules no longer applied. News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humanity as harmless began to reconsider their positions. The Empire demanded that the Galactic Council intervene. They claimed that humanity was committing war crimes. The Council reviewed the evidence and issued a stunning response. The attack on New Eden had been unprovoked aggression. Humanity's retaliation was justified. They would receive no assistance. Admiral pushed deeper into territory. She did not attack civilian worlds. She did not burn cities. She had made it clear from the beginning that humanity would only target military installations and those directly responsible for New Eden. This distinction was important. Humans wanted justice, not genocide, but their definition of justice was thorough and absolute. The Second Vengeance Fleet arrived under Admiral James. The Third Fleet followed under Admiral. Humanity had kept more secrets than anyone had realized. A total of 600 warships swept through space. They destroyed shipyards. They eliminated weapons factories. They captured military leaders and held them for trial. The mighty empire that had ruled for 10,000 years began to crumble in less than 6 months. Emperor of the finally requested a meeting with President Santos. He came to Earth personally, something no emperor had ever done. He entered the human capital expecting to negotiate from a position of strength. He found himself sitting across from a woman whose quiet determination made him feel small. She laid out her terms. They would surrender unconditionally. They would pay reparations. They would hand over every individual involved in the New Eden attack. They would reduce their military to a defensive force. They would never threaten another species again. Emperor protested that these terms were too harsh. Santos leaned forward and reminded him of 12 million dead civilians. She reminded him of children who would never grow up. She reminded him of families erased from existence. Her voice never rose above a calm whisper, but felt more terror than he had ever known. He signed the surrender documents without further argument. Admiral faced a tribunal on Earth. Survivors from ships that had fled New Eden against him. Families of the dead spoke about their losses, tried to defend himself by claiming he was following orders. The tribunal rejected this excuse. He was found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to spend the rest of his natural life in prison. He would watch through his cell window as humanity continued to grow and prosper. The galaxy learned an important lesson from the New Eden War. Peaceful species were not necessarily weak species. Farmers who tended crops could also build weapons of tremendous power. Quiet neighbors who asked only to be left alone could become implacable enemies when pushed too far. Humanity returned to its preferred role as traders and agriculturalists. They rebuilt. They planted new fields on new worlds. They raised children in peace. But they never forgot New Eden. Every year on the anniversary of the attack, humans across the galaxy observed a moment of silence. They remembered the dead. They remembered the war. And they remembered the lesson they had taught the universe. Humanity preferred peace. Humanity offered friendship to all who wanted it. But humanity would never, ever allow an attack on their people to go unpunished. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge this truth. In the end, the universe learned that the quiet farmers from Earth were perhaps the most dangerous species of all.